foreign relations in Kosovo, as well as important institutions of but when I cannot find a better panel to open this conference and to discuss important issues related to Kosovo and the region as well, and the Euro-Atlantic perspective of the region. So here with me are, let me first thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for partnering with us in organizing jointly this event, as well as the George Marshall Center alumni of Kosovo for also partnering with us in organizing this important event in Kosovo, and we look forward to future cooperation. We have some special guests here today with us, Mr. Fabrizio Lucioli, the President of the Atlantic Treaty Association. The Atlantic Treaty Association is an international NGO composed of 38 chapters, and this organization is promoting Euro-Atlantic values and promoting important processes in this perspective. And the Euro-Atlantic Association of Kosovo is its main partner in Kosovo, and we are looking forward to future cooperation in this regards. With us here is also Ms. Judica Pendarovska, who is the Program Director of the George Marshall Security Forum Macedonia, with whom I had many chances to meet in different occasions discussing security and regional cooperation issues, among others. Also with us is Mr. Brian Devlin from the U.S. Embassy, Major Brian Devlin, Chief of Office for Defense and Cooperation from the United States Embassy in the Republic of Kosovo. I should also thank current Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Anton Berisha, whose portfolio is to follow on security issues within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and as well as Deputy Minister of Kosovo, from the Ministry of Kosovo Security Forces, Mr. Agimceku. Needless to say, he had very important positions in the future, among others being Chief of Staff of the Kosovo Liberation Army during the war in Kosovo, and other important positions after the war in Kosovo. Without any ado, I would give the floor to Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister Anton Berisha for his opening speech and addressing this audience, and then the idea is to hold speeches by our panelists and then open the floor for discussion and comments from the audience here that are present here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please, Deputy Minister.
I have prepared in Albanian, thinking that it's through translation, but I can distribute to you the English version. Inderuar Presidenti Shoqatës së Traktatit Atlantik, Zoti. Sorry, the light is, I can't. Should I? Adviatjes is for Shamir. Okay. You don't see here. Yes. Nderuari Presidenti i Shoqatës së Traktatit të Atlantikut, Zoti Lucioli, nderuari Major Brian Devlin, nderuar zonës ministër i Ministrisë së Forcës së Sigurisë, zoti Qeku, nderuara zonja Pendarovska, të nderuar pjesëmarrës, përfaqësues të ambasadave, zonja dhe zotrin. Është nder dhe kënaqësi që në emër të Ministrisë së Punëve të Jashtme t'ju shpreh mirëseardhje në këtë konferencë, e cila paraqet një rast të mirë për të shprehur mendimet tona në fushën e sigurisë dhe bashkëpunimit rajonal, transformimi i forcave të sigurisë së Kosovës si dhe perspektiven euroatlantike të rajonit. Po ashtu një mundësi e mirë për të parë se çfarë kemi bërë deri sot dhe si mund të ecim më tutje. Kosova është një shtet tërësisht i hapur dhe aktiv në proceset e bashkëpunimit rajonal dhe të integrimit, duke përfshirë pjesëmarrjen aktive në organizata rajonale me gjithë pengesat politike me të cilat po përballet në këtë drejtim. Zgjerimi i NATO-s në rajonin tonë dhe parafrimi i kufive të NATO-s me Kosovën e kanë rritur sigurinë si për ne ashtu edhe për rajonin. Gjendemi në një rajon që i përket NATO-s. Antarësimet e deritanishme të Malit Zi, Shqipërisë dhe Kroacisë kanë kontribuar që Evropa juglindore të jetë e sigurt. Jetësimi i antarësimit të Maqedonisë dhe fillimi i negociatave me Kosovën do t'i kontribuoj paqes. Kosova është e interesuar që sa më shpejt të bëhet pjesë e partneritetit për paqe dhe të zyrtarizojë marrëdhëniet kontraktuale me NATO. Ky do të ishte sinjal i fuqishëm politik me konditat e përgjithshme të sigurisë dhe të stabilitetit në Evropën juglindore. Lidhja e Kosovës me NATO-n është historike dhe e veçantë, duke pasur aleancën në udhëheqje të forcave të KFOR-it në Kosovë që nga viti 1999, në ruajtjen e paqes dhe sigurisë si dhe duke ndihmuar në ndërtimin e infrastrukturës tonë të sigurisë. Kosova vazhdon të zhvillojë kapacitetet në fushët e sigurisë dhe mbrojtjes përmes evolimit të mandatit të Forcës së Sigurisë së Kosovës, ku me 18 tetor të këtij viti deputetët e Kuvendit Republikës së Kosovës votuan në lexim të parë projektligjin për Ministrinë e Mbrojtjes, projektligjin për Forcën e Sigurisë së Kosovës dhe projektligjin për shërbim në Forcën e Sigurisë së Kosovës. Kjo infrastrukturë e re e mbrojtjes bazohet në një mision të plotë të mbrojtjes së integritetit territorial, qytetarëve, pronës dhe interesave të Republikës së Kosovës. Vizion që promovon stabilitet dhe siguri, jo vetëm për nevojat e brendshme të Kosovës, por edhe për rajonin dhe me gjerë. Ose me fjalë të kryeministrit të vendit, tranzicioni i FSK-së është legjitim, është demokratik dhe gjithashtu është një proces gradual dhe synon që të kontribuojnë në sigurinë rajonale dhe globale. FSK-ja është një forcë multietnike, pakica kombëtare, ku sot janë pjesë e saj dhe po ashtu në të ardhmen do të kenë rolin e tyre në FSK. Tranzicioni i FSK-s është një kapitull i ri për Kosovën, por që do të thellojë partneritetin me NATO-n edhe më tutje, dhe se ky tranzicion dëshmon pjekurinë dhe gatishmërinë për të marrë përgjegjësi më shumë së bashku. Duam që Republika e Kosovës të mos jetë vetëm konsumuese i sigurisë, por edhe bëhet ofruesi i sigurisë rajonale dhe globale. Duam që edhe ne të kontribuojmë në ekspertizën tonë në NATO dhe misionet ndërkombëtare të NATO-s. Prania e KFOR-it është domosdoshme, por fillimi i negociatave për antarësim në NATO është jetik për Kosovën. Kosova sot më shumë se kurdoherë ka nevojë për një rrugë të qartë drejt BE-s dhe NATO-s. Ne të gjithë duhet të njohim përparimin e rëndësishëm që ka bërë vendi ynë pas shpalljes së pavarësisë dhe ky lloj përparimi do të ishte i pamundur pa perspektivën e NATO-s dhe BE-s në tavolinë. Me lejoni të përfundoj duke ju uruar edhe një herë mirëseardhjen në Kosovë. Ju uroj një diskutim të frytshëm dhe konstruktiv në një atmosferë të mirë. Faleminderit.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Anton Berishaj. Now I give the floor to President of the Atlantic Treaty Association, Mr. Fabrizio Lucioli, for his please.
Good morning, Excellencies. Deputy Minister, thank you very much for this opportunity and for being back here in Kosovo since, I have to say, I don't want to say a long time, but some years, let's say. And I'm very happy to be here to a country that we feel close, not only geographically, but also because in the present security landscape we are sharing the same security concerns. And this is particularly true when we are here in Kosovo and we look at the security concern from this perspective. And I would like to say a great thanks to the Euro-Atlantic Association of Kosovo and to Bedford for having putting together all of us today, and with a very timing and a crucial agenda on the specific key issues like regional security and cooperation on Southeastern Europe, the transformation of the Kosovo security forces in a Euro-Atlantic perspective, because all these three key elements that are on the subject that we are discussing today are absolutely interdependent, and this is particularly true when we are addressing this issue from this region. And starting from the regional security cooperation, we have to recall what the former president of Yugoslavia was saying, that this is one country. He was leading one country with two alphabets, with three languages, with 4 religions, with 5 nationalities, with 6 republics, with 7 neighbors and 8 ethnic minorities. And so the challenges from this region, of course, are particularly felt and complex. And what we have to say is that today, more than yesterday, all these challenges cannot be addressed by one country alone, but we need to be together and we need to exploit much better what the multilateral institution can offer, and particularly here we are talking about the European Union, the role of the European Union and NATO, because when we are looking to the Euro-Atlantic integration perspective, we have to take into consideration at least 3 key elements for the future development of the area, the region, and particularly of this country. That is, of course, security, because without security you are not going to have economic and social development. But at the same time, to have economic and social development, you need also the respect of the rule of law and good governance. So economic, social development, respect of the rule of law, and the security are 3 key elements that has to go hand in hand. And these are the 3 key elements of the subject that we are going to discuss together. And when we look to the picture today, we can see that we have, of course, the positive aspects, but still some gray areas in which we have to work and to implement and to concentrate and to have much more efforts. And if we look to the picture of yesterday, of course, here it was a region where 70% of the property were destroyed and 90% of the industries also. And so if we look to the picture today, it's absolutely dramatically improved in a positive way. However, even when we look, I was taking some data yesterday in economic data, and I will see that the World Bank is saying marvelous figures about the region that is increasing of the 3% in terms of economic growth. But if we look at the GDP per capita and we look at the average of the EU, of the European Union per capita GDP, with this growth it will take 60 years to have the same, to compare the per capita GDP of people in Kosovo with those of the European countries. So we need to work absolutely much more, particularly looking to the next and the future generation that I welcome and I see here in front of us. Because we need to avoid the risk of a brain drain of the youth generation, the successor generation that is the future of the region, of the country, and particularly in this country where more than the 50% is it's people with age of 25 years old, and if you ask to them what are they want to do in the very near future, many of them are looking abroad and not to stay and to work and to develop their own countries. So We need to work much more for economic and social development, and to do this we need to improve much better the regional cooperation in Southeastern Europe. And here the Western Balkan summit of the recent years were playing an important role if we look on how, for instance, connectivity, digital agenda, transportation and infrastructure was at the center of these summits. But of course, also taking into consideration that recently there was a relevant Balkan countries that was having the chairmanship of the European Union Council, we need to do much more. And to do much more in terms of developing economic and social development, to have economic and social development, we need, of course, as I was saying, to have much more rule of law, good governance, and to work much more on this field, because it was, for me, a matter of concern to see that the recent survey regarding population here in this country, and if you take the Western Balkans barometer, for instance, the 64% of the people in the Western Balkans, they are not trusting their courts or judiciary. And 75% they think that judiciary is affected by corruption. So it means that not only we need to improve the image in this field, but we need also to implement it to have a more transparent way. And on the other side, if we look from another perspective, from the perspective of Brussels, here also we have another matter of concern. We were discussing yesterday with key people of this country in a dinner, a very fruitful dinner that I appreciate very much, and I'm most grateful to all of you. What are the attention and the focus of the international institutions in this very period regarding what is going on in this area? And if we look to the security landscape in a more global way, and sometimes we are saying that the geostrategic picture of today is recalling what happens in the Cold War. Unfortunately, I have to say that unfortunately not. The elegant simplicities of the Cold War are gone, and today's situation is much more worse. In the newspaper of today, we see what is happening in the Azov Sea in Ukraine, and we are facing a security landscape with challenges and threats coming from an arc of crisis from the east, from the north, and from the east, as well as challenges and instabilities coming from the Mediterranean and the south. And these two arcs of crisis are, let's say, in some way discharging their tensions in an area, the Middle East, in Syria. And all these issues are not disconnected by this region, as you know, unfortunately, very well, because when we are talking about migration, foreign fighters, terrorism, radicalism, and so on, this is something that is affecting also this crucial region. What I want to say that everything is today much more global, interconnected, and in respect to the past, it's these threats and challenges are originating with an unprecedented speed. If you look to what is happening on the cyber domain, or on energy security, or on climate change, and so on. So we are all together in this security environment. So what I would like to outline is that the security of Kosovo, the security of the Western Balkans, Southeastern Europe, is not related only to this area of the planet and of the world. It's something that is related to the global security, and particularly to the Euro-Atlantic community. And when we look to this region specifically, we have also to take into consideration two external actors and factors, starting, for instance, from the influence, the growing influence in the area in terms of also investments of China, with this belt and the road, Silk Road, and investment, a relevant investment, around 10, 11 billions of US dollars arriving on this area of the globe, and half of which are coming in the Balkans. But of course, much more linked to this area is, of course, the action of Russia that has historical, cultural, religious linkage, and it is exploiting some security vacuum in the Western Balkans, starting from Bosnia. If you look what's happened in the past in Montenegro, before Montenegro was joining NATO, yesterday in what happened in Skopje, and even right now, and with other issues that you know very well are going on in Bosnia or maybe in this very specific area. So again, here we don't need to leave any more security vacuum, particularly in this region, that is a region in which we have also transit of, as I was recalling, of people that was going and fighting in Syria and now coming back, and here we need to commend the role of Kosovo and the Kosovo institutions that was addressing this issue in a very polite way, in a very effective way, and so around 900, 1,000 people that was departing from this region and from this, that traveled to Syria, and maybe 300-400 now are back here, but the EU was addressing this issue in a very effective way. However, we have to take into consideration that rehabilitation, not always these programs are effective with everybody, and there's sometimes pain and for these people that has been indicted are shortened, and so we need to keep attention high. European Union and NATO is a matter of concerns in terms of attention devoted to this country in this very moment. This is a very personal and humble opinion, but I think that it's a warning to all of us that we need to act much more in terms of outlining the security needs of this country and the region. Why I'm saying this? Because NATO is in this very moment rethinking itself in restructuring the common structure, the force structure, and also the task that it has to have in order to continue to comply with the same goals of 70 years ago. So next year NATO will celebrate the 70th anniversary. It's the 70th anniversary. It's an alive and kicking security organization, very complex. But we need to bring and to keep the attention of NATO high on this region as far as the security concerns are. But a matter of major concern, in my opinion, is coming also from the European Union side, because we need to take into consideration that the European Union is entering an election, let's say, year in which everybody will be concentrated for the elections of the European Parliament. And then we will have the machinery of the European Union in terms of building a new commission that will be in place at the end of 2019. And so we have a period in which the European Union will be much more concentrated on itself. And in this period in which NATO has to think on how to better balance, and here I'm coming from a country like Italy, we are stressing to have a more 360-degree balance approach of NATO, looking to the east as well as to the south. And we are going to have an important event in a few days in Naples, outlining the role of the new hub for the south, the so-called NATO Strategic Direction South hub, that is looking to outline and to understand the security challenges coming from the Mediterranean. And here Italy is playing a relevant role in order to outline the security needs coming from this area, and not only from Norway and Russia and from the east. So while NATO is there, we need to outline and to keep the attention of the European Union high, and particularly in the near future, exploiting all the instruments and there are several instruments. I was listing at least 16 instruments of the European Union in the region, starting from the Stability and Association Agreement, the instrument for pre-accession, the Berlin process, and many others. So we need to keep high the attention of this institution to boost the process, the transformation of a key institution of this country that has to go on, and of course involving all the actors and the communities that are engaged in this area. So we cannot stay and wait, because to be static today in this region, it means to go back. Things are moving forward with, as I say, unprecedented speed, and we need to be there. And here, let me say and conclude that the Atlantic Treaty Association, that it has been said, is a network organization of 38 Atlantic Council through the Euro-Atlantic community from all the NATO countries and the partner countries. Today is much more than an association. I have the privilege to chair and to lead this association, as well as the Italian Atlantic Committee. And let me say that we were improving very much the role of this organization that is celebrating more than 60 years of activities. And last year, we were in some way organizing, promoting, coordinating an average of 500 initiatives in 38 different countries. So what I would like to say today is that ATA, the Atlantic Treaty Association, is ready and capable and willing to work closer with the Euro-Atlantic Association of Kosovo in order to support with strategic communications, with activities, and to promote and to outline the security needs of this region, and in some way to translate security needs of the region in concrete actions and for a common and fruitful future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, President Lucioli. To some extent, I heard some dreamy picture about. It sounded a little bit pessimistic concerning relating to the international global security environment, of course, with different challenges that the humanity is facing today, and that you already mentioned this. I don't want to go into that, but that calls for us to be more resilient, I think, and more streamlined in our focus to better our societies. And needless to say is that most of it depends on how our society will be able to transform itself and to adopt necessary changes, necessary reforms in order to proceed further in the processes and try not to lose the attention of our key allies and our key partners, the value of whom we embrace. Regarding Cold War, I think, again, that was a grimy picture, but just to mention, just recently in Moscow, that there was a documentary that was prepared for former President Gorbachev, who did, I think, a very good job at the time when he was president of USSR in trying to transform the society. And his determination and his insistence during that event was that we have to say no, no, no to Cold War, and I hope we don't return to that. But on the other side, we have to leave to the nations and states to the free will to decide what their fate is and where do they want to belong. Having said that, I will now give the floor to Major Brian Devling from the U.S. Embassy, who is also my personal friend, and I thank him very much for his time to be here. Please, Brian. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Pesford. Good morning, distinguished guests, friends, colleagues. I want to start by thanking you, Dr. Oretsai, and the Euro-Atlantic Association of Kosovo for putting together this timely and important conference. Personally, it's a great honor to be sitting amongst these distinguished academics, policymakers. I'm a soldier. As a soldier, my role is much more that of an implementer. I am not a policymaker, but I do hope to contribute positively to the discussion today. As you know, the United States is heavily invested in the future of Kosovo and the region as a whole. For nearly 20 years, American troops have stood alongside our NATO allies to help ensure a peaceful and secure environment. I don't doubt the United States will remain committed to Kosovo citizens in the years to come. In addition to our contribution to NATO KFOR, the United States has a long-standing bilateral security relationship with the Kosovo Security Force. Since its founding, the United States has invested significantly in the development of the KSF. This has included millions of dollars for training and equipping, professional military education, and the establishment of the State Partnership Program with the great state of Iowa. I expect our support of the KSF to continue as the government of Kosovo prepares to add additional tasks to its plate. The United States supports the gradual, transparent transition of the Kosovo Security Force as it adopts a limited territorial defense mandate in accordance with Kosovo law. In fact, the U.S. government assisted the government of Kosovo in drafting the 2014 Strategic Security Sector Review and the KSF in drafting its 10-year transition plan in 2017. 10 years can seem like a long time, but from a military professional's perspective, it's actually an ambitious timeline to both double in size and achieve new capabilities. 10 years also gives time and space to allow continued outreach to those citizens in Kosovo who are wary of transition, as well as the international community. The United States will continue to support the development of a multi-ethnic force dedicated to serving all of Kosovo's citizens, one that will ultimately lead to increased stability in the country and the region. While these decisions are sovereign ones, it's critical that the government of Kosovo coordinate all security sector developments with both the United States and NATO. Transparency is a key component of partnership and will be required to ensure the KSF will be ready to successfully accomplish its future mandate and cooperate internationally. Ultimately, our interests are shared interests. As the U.S. Embassy Security Cooperation Officer, my mandate is clear. Implement security sector assistance in order to ensure regional stability and help move Kosovo further along its Euro-Atlantic path. Peace and stability are the best returns on our investment. Incredible progress has been made since the founding of the Office of Defense Cooperation here in Pristina, and we expect our security cooperation programs to continue to achieve great results for all of Kosovo's citizens. Thank you for inviting me to sit on the panel and to be a part of this event, and I look forward to our discussion. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Brian, for a very brief but very substantial speech. Of course, I should now quote former Prime Minister of United Kingdom, Winston Churchill, who once said that anything worse than fighting with allies is fighting without them. So I think this is an important quote that we should live up to. And Kosovo is counting on allies such as the United States and also NATO member states who will support us in different processes that we have undertaken to do. Now I will give the floor to Deputy Minister Agim Cehu from the Ministry of Kosovo Security Forces. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone, dear friends, dear colleagues. First of all, thank you for having us here today as a KSF. Today is a very important day for us. Today is KSF celebrating 4th day, and Minister Berisha was about to be here today, but because we consider this forum as a very important forum, and we consider security, regional security, as a very important issue, so he sent me here today to talk on his behalf, on behalf of our ministry. I see that there is no interpretation here, so I'll try to make a few remarks in my very bad English, but I do apologize because of that. So, here we are today to talk about 3 issues, about regional security and cooperation, about transition of Kosovo Security Force, and about Euro-Atlantic perspective of our country. And I will say a few words about those 3 issues that we are dealing with. First of all, regional security cooperation in Southeast Europe is Kosovo is committed, very much committed, to contribute to the regional security in our region, to Western Balkan security. And since 1999, all governments, all institutions of Kosovo are trying to take their place in this issue and to play a very constructive and positive role on that. We all know that there are some issues here that Kosovo is not yet able and capable to play a full role. But Kosovo, what was important, is very, very much committed country to this regional security. We all know that Balkan has been the source of instability in Europe, and it still presents the biggest security challenge, I think, in Europe. And Europe and the United States together, NATO, with other partners, they are considering the Western Balkans as a very serious issue and putting a lot of efforts, a lot of resources, a lot of initiatives to bring all countries of the region to cooperate together, to address the security challenges together, and to move towards EU integration or Euro-Atlantic integration. And I think the best way, the best framework to stabilize this region is EU integration and Euro-Atlantic integration. I think during this process, many countries of the region have made the progress. We have now Slovenia, we have Croatia as a member of EU, we have Albania, Croatia, Montenegro as a member of NATO, so significant progress has been made. What's most important here, that for the first time in history, all the countries in the Balkan, they have the common goal, common vision, and common objective. They all want to join the European Union. That's the best framework, and within this framework, within this process of integration, we can, in our way towards European Union, the countries, I hope, and I'm sure actually, will solve all these disputes, many disputes that they have, and this region will be stable. And this region will be stable in the end when all countries will become members of EU, responsible, credible members of the EU. Kosovo is on that path. Kosovo is playing a role in that and will always play an important role on building, contributing to security, regional security. All countries in the region can rely on Kosovo as a credible partner, as a force for good in this region, and that's not true that some countries or some neighbors is presenting and portraying Kosovo as a source of, or Kosovo institution as a source of instability. This is not the case, and this will never be the case. Kosovo and its security institution will always be a committed partner to EU and NATO, first of all, and to all countries in the region, together to move towards EU and NATO integration, and together to face all security challenges that are many of them. So, on second issue, Brian has spoke already about transformation of KSF. Kosovo is about to finish or to conclude its own security architecture. And now, these days, we are developing our national security strategy, or let's call it our state security strategy. And we are defining our security policies, defense policies, all of that in line with NATO standards, all of that in line with our EU integration, all of that in line with our commitment to regional security and to regional cooperation. So, knowing that 5 pillars of, we have defined 5 pillars of national security, and it's first of all foreign policy, active, powerful foreign policy that will, second is effective defense system and defense institution, defense concept. Third is internal security, meaning police, effective police, and people to face secure. Fourth is information early warning, and helping decision makers to make right and timely decisions. And fifth pillar is a national response plan in case of any emergency. So you see that in these 5 pillars, we are still missing effective and appropriate defense capabilities, defense capacities. And that's why, together with our partners, we are completing this issue. We are building out this pillar of our national security, and we are at the end of the process. You know that this transformation of KSF didn't come just because we want to have an army and we feel that they are threatened from someone and we need to build our defense capacity to counter any kind of aggression and so on and so. It's not the case. This has been just in our desire to make Kosovo from security consumer to security provider, to complete our security architecture, to for many other reasons rather than to make something that we will counter someone. Or no, we are building something that will be partner to everyone in this region, will be constructive force for good in this region, contributing to regional security and stability and so on. So to this conclusion that we need to have defense capabilities came through strategic security sector review process, very comprehensive and process involved all internal and our partners in this process, and as a conclusion came that Kosovo really need to have defense capabilities. It was in 2014 we came up with this conclusion. We explained to our partners, to NATO and his partners, to our countries in the region, that this is normal development of our country and consolidating of our statehood. And so everybody recognized this as the right things to do. And we wanted this to do through making constitutional change. That time, 2014, not everybody was ready to vote for that. I meaning member of parliament coming from Serbian community were not ready to vote for this yet. And we wanted to do in that way. We really wanted to do that way. And we gave them a time. From 2014 until now, we tried to convince them that this is not against anyone, especially not against them, against Serb community here. This is for all the people of Kosovo. This is for our own Kosovo. But they do understand that that's the case. They believe, but unfortunately, they are not representing in our parliament the will of the people of Kosovo. They are representing the will of official policy in our Western neighbors here. So we tried to convince them. We produced lots of arguments, lots of proofs. We made KSF really very credible force, multi-ethnic force, ready force to accomplish all these tasks that are within their mandate. And we proved that. So we had 140 Serbs in KSF. And so they didn't accept this, not because they are afraid about it, not because the KSF presents a threat towards them. That's not the truth. They know that. They have heard from us, they have seen, and they have heard from partners. But they have adopted a policy how to counter Kosovo. They have adopted the implementing policy, trying to implement policy, making Kosovo a failed state, preventing Kosovo to strengthen their statehood, preventing Kosovo to consolidate the statehood. And everybody knows that military force is identity of the state, it's state identity, it's national identity. That's the only reason they disagree. And when we, our partners in NATO, United States, and everybody saw that this is not, they are not ready to vote because they have all arguments in front of them, and we decided, our government decided to build defense capability through adopting the current roles of KSF and giving to KSF a defense role, and in due course to build defense capabilities that we need. So, very soon, I think next month, this is just a matter of procedures, parliamentary procedures, that our parliament will adopt the new laws on KSF. So, with that, KSF will take on its own shoulders military role, will have task to defend Kosovo's sovereignty, integrity, and will keep all these capabilities that we have today to assist civilian authorities, all communities, to serve all communities, and will keep all values that we have built until today and try to increase them and to be more and more professional, more and more multi-ethnic, and more credible force as we are today. So this is a legitimate process. This is based on our constitution. This is based on our needs. This is based on our vision that we want really to be security provider as well. We are entering the new phase. Kosovo Security Force is ready to start implementation. We have developed a long-term development plan, mid-term development plans, and it will take approximately 10 years, KSF, to become a full operational defense force of Kosovo. This will be a force that will be professional, that will be multi-ethnic, that will serve all the people of Kosovo, that will be ready to react, that will be informed and intelligence force, that will be a force ready to contribute to regional security and global security and stability, to contribute to all NATO-led or UN-led or EU-led operation, humanitarian and peacekeeping operation, whatever. So, and in one word, this will be force for good in Kosovo, in the region, for sure. On third topic, on NATO integration, it's known, Kosovo has made it very clear that our destination is NATO membership. NATO means a lot to us. For us in Kosovo, NATO, first of all, is guardian of our security. Second, NATO is generator of our reforms that we are making, we have made. And third, NATO is our destination, is our aspiration. So even we didn't have a formal relationship, we don't have a formal relationship with NATO. We are constantly asking, pushing for that, and NATO has started to recognize us as a potential member. NATO as an organization is not opposing building the Kosovo security defense capacities in Kosovo. NATO has helped to develop KSF in line with NATO standards, and it is developed in that way. And we hope very much so that NATO will keep to support KSF in this new mandate and new role. So, but we have made some progress in the past 2-3 years. NATO has introduced to Kosovo the enhanced interaction program measures, let's say, and we are working together with NATO in this area, this 8th area that we are interacting with NATO. So NATO has chosen very careful language. We have called it interaction, not cooperation, but interaction, and we have no problem with that. Most important for us that we are connecting with NATO, working together. And I want to stop to one particular issue here. Is one of the areas that we are interacting with NATO is public diplomacy. That's very much related to the ATA here. And we have had, I think, 1 or 2 NATO has sponsored conference with Kosovo Center for Security Study, this NGO, active one here in Kosovo, an important one. But I'm very much happy that today we have the now Euro Ethnic Association of Kosovo. But unfortunately, we are not very much organized in this area. There has been several NGOs attempting to be leading NGO in this area. I have been part of one of them, Kosovo Euro-Atlantic Club, but there is some others that have applied for membership on ETA, but this never happened just because of we have always, our partners call us, come together, all NGOs, let's have an NGO. Because during my career, I have I have attended a lot of conferences, I have a lot of knowledge how important these organizations are in countries' way towards NATO. I very much know how important was, for example, the Atlantic Club's role in Bulgaria, and they're very active now. How important is in Croatia, Atlantic Council of Croatia. How important I would like to emphasize this, the Center for Euro-Atlantic Study in Serbia. They are very active, and these organizations are very powerful, powerful opinion makers in society to prepare the opinion, to prepare the citizen of all benefits, to inform them all benefits of NATO membership. And I'm recalling here that we took in Kosovo to try to bring together all these NGOs under one umbrella and to have one organization that will be, I hope very soon, member of ATA. I know that some organizations have applied for a long time ago, but it's not the case yet. Kosovo is not part of ATA. I hope you will help us to be one day. Anyway, but we all know that NATO membership have almost 100% support of people of Kosovo to join NATO. We see ourselves as a NATO member, and we hope that we will become, but very constructive one. Because we are a small country, we know as a small country to be respected and to be recognized, we need to perform excellent. We to have our performance has to be higher than approximate. Our institutions have to perform that way. As a country, we have to obey and to perform in that way to be recognized as an important, relevant NATO member. We are aware about that, and in that way, we are working in KSF, we are working in Kosovo, we are building our country, our institution in that way to have excellent performance, and that's a way that people will take us serious and will consider us as a credible partners. So I will conclude with this, and looking forward to answer any question you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, certainly, for your speech, Deputy Minister Agim Ceku, for your comprehensive approach on different issues related to the conference and topics we are discussing today. Of course, it has come to many discussions, this issue between of Kosovo and its allies and what the international community is doing in Kosovo. I think I should emphasize here, as I always do, that our relations with allies and our partners is a two-way process. It's one thing what our allies are offering us, and another thing is our ability to get to a point compatible for each other. And therefore, what our allies in this process are asking for us is to embrace core values that are stated as well in the treaty, NATO treaty, which are rule of law, democracy, human rights, and free market economy. And these are the key guiding points that should get us closer to our allies. And it depends, I think it depends much more from our internal struggle on how and when and how we proceed in these processes in a bit to form a society that resembles these and supports these core values. Now I will give the floor to Ms. Program Director of George Marshall Center Security Forum Macedonia, Ms. Ljubica Pendarovska, of course, she is here at a key time, not only for us, but also for Macedonia as well. And we hope that Macedonia will be soon fully fledged member of the NATO, and that by that I think that Kosovo and the region is more secure. As regards, for example, Kosovo then will be bordering 3 NATO member states. Currently we are bordering 2 member states, NATO member states, and we hope that we have the 3rd one, and then soon the 4th one, and all the region becomes member of NATO. Ms. Pendarovska, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Besford. Your Excellencies, dear speakers, distinguished guests, and especially dear students. I'm very delighted to have the opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts today related to Euro-Atlantic integration, I would say, because I will try to link it, not only mentioning NATO alliance, but how also the relations with EU are very important, also for the NATO integration. And of course, I will put some emphasis on the Macedonian role in this whole processes. I will start in a female manner, saying one quote, saying, to plant a flower is to believe in future, which means we all here on the Balkans already planted a flower, and because we believe that the future in Euro-Atlantic family will come very soon for us. But it's, the most important thing is not only to plant the flower, but to take special care for it, appropriate care for it, and that's why we need all of us together in the region, but not only in the region, of course with the help and any potential that can help us from the Europe and abroad to take care for that flower. Starting from the basic rule that the situations should be analyzed from the standpoint of geopolitics, I will try to concentrate on 3 points. The first, the most significant benefit on joining the Euro-Atlantic family is the transformation of the society as a whole, because it is not only the compliance of the legislation, for instance with the EU acquis, and the institutions that matters. In fact, we can speak about functional system and a long-term state without complete social transformation. If you get deeper into the official speeches during the conferences or other kind of speeches of some officials, you will see, especially European ones, you will see that the most common used terms are honest approach, sincere approach, European identity, Europe of tomorrow. And in case of Macedonia, with so-called Prive report, I'm sure more or less each of you already heard about it, which was very painful, but the first real report which shows us what are the things we need to do, where we are so bad that we need to improve if we want to get further. That's why the first question I will try to answer is, where is the Republic of Macedonia on that path of social transformation, having in mind the region as a whole? The second one, the inevitable truth is that the Balkan countries, and that was mentioned a few times during today's speeches, are even much interconnected, but also interdependent, much more if we compare with the rest of the world. And that's why I'm very happy. If we compare the last year with the previous years, the European Union has changed a bit its role, and I would say its relation towards Balkan countries, because so far the status quo here on the Balkans was seen by the Europeans as a sustainable and good job. But the recent history and the recent past has clearly showed us that status quo is always a potential danger here on the Balkans. And that's why I'm very happy that in the last years, especially, not only NATO, but also the European Union put emphasis on that. Hence, the second question concerns the contribution of Macedonia as an exporter and importer of regional stability and cooperation. There I will put some words on the Macedonia seen as a successful story, because, believe me, it is my great pleasure after so many years to have the opportunity to speak from another standpoint, which means I'm not representing the official policy of Macedonia, but representing the Macedonian state from another positive point, from another positive perspective, I would say. And the third one, we mentioned during the speeches, you've mentioned during the speeches, the reform process is going in NATO. And I would say that it's very important to take care and to follow very carefully those processes, but not only in NATO and also in the European Union, having in mind that now the European Union is facing the biggest dilemma, saying if we want, paraphrasing the EU, if we want things to stay as they are, things will have to change. It's a very, very important thing to think about it. This is the great dilemma that EU faces today, the need for effective policy reform, because in the past we have many reforms, but they were not that effective. Of course, in a certain sense, it reflects on the Union as a community, but also on the relations between EU and NATO alliance and the great world powers. Of course, what I would like to concentrate on here is how all those reforms, not only the new budget for 2021 till 2027, but also other reforms, for instance, European list, then Brexit process, leaving 73 MPs if the UK finally leave EU. We will see what happens. We can discuss about it either. So how they will reflect the enlargement processes, because if you analyze the budget and if you see which are the priorities of the EU budget, you will see whether they are concentrated on those areas which are affecting mostly the enlargement processes. And also, if you analyze, you can see that if you analyze other reforms as well. So I will try to be very brief, because the speakers were, I thought that would be longer, but I will try to be as brief as I can. The first one, as I said, I'm not here representing the official government policy of Macedonia, although I'm not hiding that I'm very fond of the way the foreign policy of Macedonia and Euro-Atlantic integration of the country is led by our current government. But I will say a few facts which were actually said by with the official EU and NATO reports. And only those facts which are very related to the role of Macedonia in the region, in the stability of the region and cooperation especially. For many years, Macedonia was seen by the official reports, and especially by the European Commission progress report, as a captured state, which means not only the captured state, but the institution and especially judicial system was seen as the captured one. So, according to the latest developments, the government has taken serious steps to address captured state by gradually restoring checks and balances, strengthening democracy and rule of law. The other very important aspect, because we live in multi-ethnic Macedonia, where you know we have almost 25% of Albanian population, and for us, and also for the regional stability, it's very important how fragile, let's say, are those relations, because we can still not talk about I can say so calm interethnic situation, but having in mind the conflict we have in 2001 and the Ohrid Framework Agreement, which followed the conflict and finalized it in a very transparent manner, I would say. From this position now, it is very important to mention that really concrete measures and activities were undertaken to implement the Ohrid Framework Agreement in public administration, in judicial, in other institutions. And I'm not sure whether you already heard that while we are ongoing these processes with constitutional changes which are now in the Parliament, this Saturday, 1st of December, we are starting the second stage in front of the Parliament. There was a request of one of the Albanian parties in the Macedonian Parliament to put, along with the other constitutional documents in the Macedonian constitution, to put as one of the founding documents the Ohrid Framework Agreement. And in the amendments, Ohrid Framework Agreement is put as, among others, which constitute the Macedonian state, as one of the founding documents, which is very important for our multi-ethnic relations. Also, the most painful point in each of our societies is the transformation of public administration. So the country has so far moderately prepared with the reform of its public administration. Then the judicial system has reached some level of preparation somehow, although with the latest development related to the asylum given to our former Prime Minister in Hungary. Also, the judicial system and the court decisions are put in spotted light, so we'll see how they will progress in the future. As regards the fight against corruption, the country has achieved some level of preparation. One of them is, and it is very important to highlight that now in front of our courts are high officials for corruption, among others, former minister, prime minister, etc. Also, I'm not going to talk about fundamental rights because I already mentioned something. As regards freedom of expression, the media, the country has achieved some level of preparation, but still the main challenge and the pressure of the journalists is kind of decreasing, but still the main challenge is how to reform the public broadcaster, which is still under some functioning under some dangerous, I would say, in quotes, circumstances. With regard to regional cooperation, the country maintained its good relations with other enlargement countries and participated actively in regional initiatives, of course following our country interests, but also the interests in the region. And here I will start with this part because lately I will address the agreement with Bulgaria and afterwards with Greece. Macedonia continued also to manage the effects of the migration and refugee crisis, and it's very important to see how the reforms related to migration and refugees will not only in the formal documents but also in the budget of EU will be addressed, because we know that with this budget, which is ongoing now, there is no specific fund, there is no specific money which are related specifically to migration and refugee. What about NATO? The values of the alliance, why I mentioned this, because when we are talking about regional cooperation, the strong internal cohesion and good neighborly relations are very important. And that's why the progress that Macedonia made with Bulgaria and especially with Greece, finally putting an end, or at least starting to put the end of almost 27 years problem we had, is very important in the region. The accession talks, where we are now on that way towards the alliance membership, the accession talks of Macedonia to NATO were formally completed in October this year. And now Macedonia has delivered the key document, the Strategic Defense Review, which was along with our annual program for the next 2019 year and our specific activities which we plan to undertake related to our NATO membership were presented a few days ago in front of the diplomats in our country by our Foreign Affairs and Defense Minister. And why is this the key document? Because it highlights what are the most pressing issues, but also not only our national but also regional security challenges, and also discussing about that question which is of high importance for NATO and especially for US as a NATO member, how we get that 2% budget, defense budget. And discussing about the defense budget, the objective of meeting the NATO target of 2% for Macedonia is 2024. We will see how realistic it is. The geostrategic and geopolitical position of Macedonia are of interest to and influenced by important economic and political actors. It was mentioned previously, and this is corresponding impact on our national security because conflicts in Middle East, like in areas Iraq, then South Asia, Afghanistan, in Libya has also affected our security situation, as I mentioned, through the arrival and transit of migrants, but also radical extremists and battlefield returnees. We do not have on a short, nowadays, medium and long term, we consider that the threat of military aggression by another state is highly unlikely. And the most significant risks we face are from asymmetric, hybrid and cyber threats and other non-military threats, including those posed by non-actor states. Which are the most pressing challenges? First of all, the economic political issues remain a serious challenge for our country because they are, if we want to look at the things right to the point in their eyes, is that economic challenges are most important because they are main generator of instability in the form of social challenges. They include slow economic growth, corruption, organized crime, insufficiently developed institutions, high rate of unemployment, weaknesses within the judicial system, and among others. We didn't mention the energy security, which is very important for the region because the region is very reliant on external sources, especially for oil and gas. Hostile foreign intelligence services and their covert operations are a threat for the society and for the region as a whole. And we see that situation happening even in Macedonia during especially, we as ordinary citizens can feel it especially in that period while we're approaching the referendum at the end of September, where some of foreign not so good forces were acting there, trying to convince us that the NATO membership is not our destination, and having in mind that we say that in 1991, it's nothing to discuss about. The second point, I will mention why those developments, recent developments happening in Macedonia in the last year are very important for the region. The first one I mentioned, the good neighborly relation agreement between Bulgaria and Macedonia, which was signed in August 2017. Because that is an agreement we started with, we see it as a more easier one if we compare with the Greece. And it is always our good advice and recommendation to start with the issues which are where we have less conflicts and where we have at least more points we are in together. So that's why we started with Bulgaria. And afterward, a lot of agreements of cooperation in defense, telecommunication, tourism, energy, and economy were signed. And in less than 10 months, the total trade between two countries was increased more than 50%, which is a great indicator. The final agreement for the settlement of the differences on name issues with Greece, which was signed this June, it's very important because it is the example, it is actually seen as a good example story happening now, not only in the Balkan region, but in Europe as a whole. It was even mentioned by the UN Secretary, Mr. Guterres, during his speech in September, that among other disasters, human disasters happening around the world, there are still some good examples of cooperation, and he mentioned the agreement with Greece. As you know, we are finalizing it. It is not an easy process, and yesterday when we discussed, I said that it can be used as a kind of, not example for solving, specific example for solving Kosovo and Serbia relations, but of course, if something from this process can help, then it is a good idea to have in mind. And finally, the reforms we are facing, especially with the European Union and the NATO, and other things which were not mentioned, and I think that they are important for our future, especially for the enlargement with the Balkans. The rise of illiberal tendencies in several EU member states has called into question the EU's transformative power and its ability to export democracy successfully through its enlargement policy. I would like to stress out that I'm very